You are listening to Lee Allure. Make sure that you are seated in a comfortable position with your headphones on for the best effects. As always, avoid driving and/or operating heavy machinery while listening to the sound of my voice. And to sink down more deeply right now. To breathe in and come up just a little bit, to breathe out and drop down more deeply. To notice that it's easy to be in deep sleep anytime. And for you to have the part of you that it knows everything. Come forward, and to allow the parts that think that they don't know something or can't do a thing to just quietly fade off to the background. You're aware of them. You know that they're there, if you do. But perhaps you can forget a little bit of that and feel how good it is to just imagine that you can do anything. As though you've been imbued with superpowers, and the superpowers right there let you know that whatever comes your way, your unconscious mind is going to figure it out. Not your conscious self. We don't care about your conscious self here. Your conscious self is not important at this moment in time. Your unconscious self is. Your unconscious self can imagine that it knows how to do everything, and it may also well know everything too. Because the parts of you that thought you didn't, or thought that you couldn't, or didn't know, or couldn't do, can just fade away. They can go out to the back and hang out with themselves. And the part of you that knows you can do everything and knows that you know everything can let that happen. You know how to do that. You don't even have to think about it. Isn't that the fun part of it? The fun part of hypnosis is not having to think about a thing at all. So whatever it is that you found yourself thinking about, pick something orange out of the air, or maybe green, maybe something with a strong drum beat, or something that's shiny. Whatever it is that comes to your brain, find yourself unconsciously building something around that, something that you can do. So when I talk about something, your brain makes the thing happen. Your brain lets everything feel a little bit better and a little bit better and conditions you to feeling more and more like you know a lot of stuff and you can do anything. One word of caution. Smart people know that they don't know everything, but for this purpose, you know that you can learn, you know that you can know something, that your unconscious mind can know that it can do anything, and that it knows stuff and it can figure things out. So let that happen as you drop down more and more deeply right now. Feel yourself giving in a little bit more and more easily right now. Feel how fascinating it is for your unconscious mind to go, yeah, I can do a thing, and then to just figure out how it gets done. Now, sometimes when we want to figure something out, we can go and look on YouTube, and there's somebody there handily showing us which wrench to use and how to exactly seal this thing so when we pour this stuff in there, it doesn't leak. It's very helpful. And maybe checking things out on YouTube when your brain is sure that you know how to do a thing, just for verification, would also be useful. But in the meantime, let your unconscious self just sink down deeper. And then on the count of 5, come up all the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wide awake, and deep sleep, right back down to where you were. You don't really need to worry about any of this because your unconscious mind knows that it knows what to do. Your unconscious mind knows that it can figure out what to do, like that. And your unconscious self can feel how good that is to have that part of you that knows what to do, that knows how to do a thing, that knows it can figure a thing out, to be exposed, to be out there in the sunlight, gaining strength and power. Think about how fascinating it is to have that part of you that is completely confident in your ability to do a thing / your ability to figure out how to do a thing. Go ahead and drop down more and more deeply right now while your unconscious mind thinks about a thing that the other parts of you thought that you didn't know how to do or couldn't do. And then let that other part, that kind of know-it-all part, just go, oh, we figure it out like this. Bam, bam, bam. And feel how good that is to let that part of you figure that out. To let that part of you that wants to figure it out be compelled to figure it out. That part of you that can equate something with something else. That part of you that can say, oh, I just put this in here and we do that and bam. That part of you that likes building things or that likes playing around with games and figuring things out. That part of you can do all of these things. Whatever it is that you find yourself using as you normally get through your days, it's like that part, only that part is on steroids. And it feels so empowered to get anything done, to figure it out, to make it happen, to know how that can possibly be. So go down deeper into trance now, and wide awake on 3, 1, 2, 3, and deep sleep all the way back. And feel how good that is to allow that part of you that knows it knows everything, that knows it knows how to do everything, take over for a little while. Find yourself going down more deeply into trance every time I say deep sleep. Feel that pull within you as though that part of you is like, oh yeah, it would be really awesome if it felt like we could feel like we were dropping from our stomach and our head and just something came up and pulled us down from that. Or maybe it feels so good to have your body be stupidly heavy and part of you floating off. Allow your brain to let that happen. To allow both of those things to happen, one then the other. Wide awake, floaty, 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 and deep sleep. Just like that. So comfortable and so heavy, or maybe it was the other way around. And whatever you found yourself doing, notice that you can just drop more deeply into trance right now. That the deeper you find yourself going to the state of trance, the stronger that part of you that's like, oh, we can do anything gets. And just because you find yourself at some point in time coming up, it doesn't matter. That part of you has been unleashed. And notice how fantastic it feels to let that part of you go, wow, I can do all these things. I'm going to keep doing all these things. This is fantastic. I had no idea. Why didn't you let me out sooner? And feel how fun that is to let that out. For you to find yourself doing things safely and appropriately, but not as though you wanted to peer around the corner and notice what was going on before you did a thing. Allow yourself to venture forth boldly. To venture forth boldly and to feel really great about the idea that you are capable of figuring out how to do a thing and doing a thing, and doing it well, and getting better and better at it every single time. Go deeper now. And feel how fascinating it is for the electricity of excellence to just begin to crackle through your brain and your body. To feel how fascinating that is, for that to course through you, imbuing every single part of you with the idea that you can and you will, and that doing that is fun and exciting. Just let that happen more and more and more easily, until your unconscious self is operating at a higher level of function, until your unconscious self feels so very good at you shoving those parts of you that said that they couldn't or said that they didn't know in some corner somewhere. But just for right now, because all parts of us are valuable. So I'm going to ask those parts of you that thought that they couldn't or didn't to find a way so that they can't and don't get in the way. Oh, isn't that interesting? Ask those parts if they would like to change themselves from whatever it was that they were doing to being the parts that refuse to allow you to get in your own way. Feel how exciting and interesting that is as those parts become like ball bearings within you, allowing you to move easily and freely to where you want to go, to where you need to go, whether or not you consciously know it or not, because it doesn't matter, because your unconscious mind can feel so very good about you doing all these things that you didn't know that you could do before. At you finding yourself having more and more and more knowledge about whatever it is that is interesting to you in a way that's completely and totally unexpected, almost as though those things that thought that they didn't know were hiding stuff from you. But now they're helping to move you along, to understand, to give in to your ideas, to give in to your I can do it spirit and attitude, to hold on to how powerful that feels when your brain simply surrenders to this state. There are a lot of things we can surrender to, but let's surrender to the idea that you're good at everything, that you're capable of doing whatever it is that you'd like. When you identify whatever it is that you'd like to do, your brain, all those parts that I mentioned, begin to work together to drive you to do that thing. And it can feel really fascinating to be letting go of your inhibitions, It can be really great to feel free of fear. It can really be fascinating, perhaps, to hear your unconscious self say, good girl, good boy, good toy, good job, well done, whatever it is that most inspires you when you hear it, to make that happen. To feel yourself becoming more and more functional on that unconscious level, as you find yourself appreciating it. Feel how good that is to appreciate the way your unconscious mind can take the parts of you that were holding you back before and rearrange them to be the parts that refuse to let you hold yourself back from now on, and the parts that know stuff and the parts that do stuff, to just get on with the knowing and the doing. I mean, the idea is possible that you could become a terror at this, but let's allow ourselves to have a good, lovely dose inside us of confidence, not cockiness. Feel what that's like to just be confident that you can do a thing or that you can figure out a thing. If you can figure out a thing, you can do it, right? Right. So let your unconscious mind right now just indulge in that idea that you're getting better and better at doing all sorts of things. That you're getting better and better at freeing yourself from the idea that you couldn't do a thing, first of all, and that's huge. And that your unconscious mind's knowledge about how to do things is going to start expanding, because the things that you know how to do are often very similar to things that you think you don't know how to do. So your unconscious mind now is just going to allow you to start figuring out the similarities between those two and how you can take advantage of that to make the things that you want to do the things that you can do. Go ahead and sink and drop down more and more deeply right now. And never mind the things that don't matter. Indulge your brain with the idea that it does know how to do a thing, that it can figure out a thing, and that it enjoys doing that. And as your brain gets to that point and understands it, allow it to be flooded right now with stuff that feels good, with stuff that for your brain matters, stuff that is important, so that you can feel it, so that you can know it, so that you can understand how good it is for you to accept your abilities and your powers. Like that. And let the pleasure of doing this overwhelm you just a little bit. Just let it flow right over the top of you, crash into you, give you delight and joy. And find that your brain can jump around to different scenarios, that you can find yourself thinking of different kinds of things that you thought you couldn't do, and to discover that now all of you is working smoothly and together so that you can get a thing to happen. And as your brain works with itself to make all these things happen, as your unconscious mind is aware that you are indulging in the habit of getting good at a thing, of being confident in yourself, of knowing the joy of creating a thing from nothing, or creating a thing from just a wish, a want, a desire, that all the parts of you that need to are there. So hang on to those resources and hang on to those possibilities. Notice that one possibility can lead to the next, and to the next, and to the next. And the more your brain does that, the deeper you can go into trance, knowing that when you find yourself back in the world, that all of these things that you need will be there with you, as though they have simply clung to you in a way that is useful and practical. Drop down deeper right now. Feel that knowledge feeling very, very good, while your brain just allows itself to be overwhelmed with pleasure coming and going in waves, just crashing into you and bringing you delight, just allowing your unconscious mind to drop chemicals from your brain into the rest of your body, letting you feel so good. Feel the transformation that happens as you find yourself feeling better, as you find yourself capable of giving in to these ideas, as you find yourself capable of giving in to the ideas that your unconscious mind is so fantastically capable and that it wants to do all these things for you. Just give in, drop and drop again. Slide and surrender and sink and drop down more and more deeply into trance right now. Feel how exciting it is. Drop over and over again. Feel your unconscious mind surrender to these ideas. Feel all of you, begin to feel the sense of calm inside. Because when you know you're capable of doing a thing, when you know that you can figure it out, you can do it, and your brain knows that, any sense of hesitation or concern or stress can just go away. I've got this. It's a really easy thing. Your brain just goes, I got this. I know we can figure out. I know we can do it. It's simple. If it's not simple, I'll think about what my idea for doing it is, and then I'll go check and see what other people's ideas for doing it are and see how they hold up against mine. When I was younger, I got into making quilts. And there was this pattern that I really loved that I wanted to make for a friend. And it involves a lot of curves. And if you've ever done sewing, sometimes you know that curved things can be a bitch. Especially because you kind of have to give them a seam and press things together. And if you're not careful, things look straight instead of curved. So I figured out a different way to sew than they had talked about in the instructions, and it made it much easier and much faster for me. I didn't know that I could do that at the beginning, but I figured that it's my quilt and I'm going to sew it, so I don't have to follow the instructions as long as the end result is what happens. Even if the end result hadn't been exactly like the pattern, it would have been fine. But the end result was just exactly the way it should have been. And I found an easier, faster way to do it. And my brain was pretty happy with that. And then I realized that I didn't really have to follow other people's instructions for doing a thing if my brain knew a better way to get something done. Your brain has that ability to figure these things out. You may have already experienced that at some point in time in your life. Of course, you may have already been shut down at some point in time in your life when you tried to get something done a different way because somebody had an objection. But notice how good it feels to know that your brain has that capacity, that you have the ability to do whatever it is that you'd like to find yourself doing in a way that really works for you, in a way that's faster or more efficient or more practical or more fun. Celebrate your unconscious mind's capacity, resources, and ability. Because it feels so good when you discover that you can do a thing. It's almost like you have been the discoverer of it if you find yourself doing it a different way. And this is the way of the world. We get people who invent new paper clips. So something as ubiquitous and simple as a paperclip can be redesigned in a way that is useful for folks. Allow your unconscious mind to know that it can be repurposed in whichever ways you need it so that the things that you want to do can get done. Find yourself appreciating that and letting yourself sink and drop down more and more deeply right now. Feel a hunger within yourself to let the parts of you that are good at doing things get better at doing things. Give into that a little bit more right now as you drop and drop and drop again. Wide awake on 3, 1, 2, 3, and deep sleep. Plunge right back down into that amazing shiny space inside your brain where things get done, where things get figured out, where you find yourself doing all the stuff that you didn't know that you could or thought you couldn't before, but now that those parts of you that thought you couldn't or thought you didn't know how are now making sure everything is moved out of your way so that you can do the things that you want to do, that you need to do, that you can give in. Hold on to how fun that is for your mind to let that happen. Never mind the naysayers. Never mind your conscious self if it gets too obstructive. Those parts of your unconscious mind can steamroll right over that and just let things happen. Your conscious self can get overridden by the possibilities that your unconscious mind knows exist, so that you can find yourself doing the things that you didn't think you could, that you can find yourself understanding the things that you didn't think you knew, so that your brain gets better and better at paying attention unconsciously to what's going on, and your conscious self gets better and better at trusting your unconscious mind to do all the things. And your unconscious mind is awash with the possibility and the pleasure that comes from all the possibilities. So sink and drop down more and more easily right now. Just drop. Sink and drop and slide and give in to the idea that your brain is better than you think, better than you thought, better for you than you knew, and that it's going to keep doing that. Hold on to that and feel how very good that is, and come up with all these resources, active, excited, wanting to get doing something. Test things out, see how they go, trust yourself. Wide awake on 10, find your eyes open at 8, find yourself feeling fantastic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, eyes open. 9, feeling so good. 10, right back here with us.
Thank you for listening.